Dawn breaks over the glistening waters of Lake Nyanza, today mistakenly known as Lake Victoria. The morning mist clings to rolling emerald hills, revealing fertile plains where a proud people have thrived for centuries. This is Buganda, a kingdom whose origins stretch deep into legend and whose power once shaped much of Africa's Great Lakes region. The Baganda, the largest ethnic group in Uganda, trace their lineage here, in a land they have occupied since the dawn of time. Their story, woven from myth, historical conquests, and remarkable statecraft, offers a compelling glimpse into one of Africa's most dynamic pre-colonial kingdoms. Before the advent of kingdoms like Buganda, the region's social landscape centered on numerous clans, Bakata. These clans shaped local customs and spirituality, marking the land with shrines, Masabo, dedicated to ancestral rulers and local deities. Mythical founders such as Kintu and Chimera stand out in Buganda's origin stories, symbolizing the early evolution of leadership structures and the influence of neighboring polities, particularly Bunyoro, in forging Buganda's political traditions. According to oral traditions, painstakingly recorded in various Ganda and missionary archives, and noted by historians such as Sir Apollo Kagwa in his Basikabaka, Be Buganda, the Kings of Buganda. The first Kabaka, that is king, was a semi-mythical figure named Kinta. Some oral histories paint him as the very first human. Others describe him as a conquering warrior from nearby territories, determined to seize land north of the Grand Lake Nyanza. A related version attributes Buganda's founding to Chimera, a prince from the neighboring kingdom of Bunyoro, who reputedly traveled south to establish a new power base. While these accounts differ in detail, each points to the same conclusion. The Buganda believed themselves to be descended directly from humanity's earliest ancestors, firmly rooted at the headwaters of the Nile. From the start, Buganda shared borders and frequent rivalries with Bunyoro, a once dominant kingdom in the region. Yet by the 18th century, Buganda's fortunes rose as Bunyoro's waned. In published works such as John Rowe's Historical Dictionary of Uganda, historians detail how successive Kabakas, such as Mwanda, Junju, and Kamanya, launched military campaigns that doubled Buganda's territory. At its zenith, the kingdom encompassed an area nearly twice the size of modern-day Rwanda, cementing its status as the leading power around the Great Lakes. Stroll through Buganda's historical courts, and you would have encountered a sophisticated social and political structure, deeply influenced by African matriarchal traditions. The king, or Kabaka, governed with the spiritual support of his mother, known as the Namasole, a title carrying both reverence and real authority. She maintained her own court, wielding power similar to that of the king himself. The Kabaka's sister similarly held exalted titles and influence. Yet one of Buganda's most intriguing aspects was its lack of a single royal clan. Each clan hoped to see its daughter marry the Kabaka and give birth to a future ruler, raising that clan's prestige to the highest level. Naturally, this led to a sprawling royal household, Kabaka Mutisa, the first, who reigned from around 1856 to 1884, according to scholarly sources, famously had 85 wives. In contrast to many African kingdoms that used a matrilineal succession, where a king was followed by his sister's son, Buganda's throne typically passed to the son of the previous Kabaka. This son could be a direct heir, or, in some circumstances, a nephew raised as a prince. Stability thus depended on a delicate balancing act among royal mothers, rival clans, and royal advisors. The Kabaka did not rule alone. By the mid-19th century, a powerful office known as the Katikiro, that is, Prime Minister, had emerged. He managed day-to-day governance, aided by the Lukiko, that is, Royal Council, a collection of influential chiefs and dignitaries representing key provinces. Whenever Buganda conquered new territories, the Kabaka installed local rulers to govern on his behalf, ensuring a loose yet effective federal-style structure across the expanding domain. Buganda's economic strength sprang from its fertile soils and consistent rainfall, which yielded rich harvests of bananas, millet, and other staples. Multiple 19th century explorers, including John Hanning Speke, in his journal of the discovery of the source of the Nile, observed that famine seemed almost unknown among the Buganda. The kingdom's position along Lake Nyanza served as an aquatic highway for trade, carrying canoes laden with cloth, iron goods, and other commodities. Arab traders journeyed inland, exchanging firearms for ivory, while provincial chiefs oversaw tax collection in kind, cattle or produce. Royal roads led to the capitals, meticulously maintained by local officials. Published literature, such as Richard Reed's Political Power in Pre-Colonial Buganda, highlights the advanced administrative systems that ensured the realm's prosperity and unity. In the mid-19th century, Buganda's principal capital was Rubaga, often spelled Rubaga, perched atop a hill offering panoramic views of the surrounding countryside. Contemporary sketches and notes by explorers like Henry Morton Stanley show that broad, well-tended roads led to the royal compound at the summit. After lightning destroyed much of Rubaga, the royal court relocated to other strategic hills around present-day Kampala. One enduring monument to Buganda's royal heritage is the Kasubi tombs, established in 1882. 4 kabakas, starting with Mutesa I, are buried there. Honored as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the tombs represent one of the world's most remarkable architectural achievements using purely organic materials, primarily wood, reeds, and thatch. Scholars, including those contributing to UNESCO's official reports, laud the tomb's impressive craftsmanship and cultural significance. By the time European explorers reached Buganda in the 1860s, Kabaka Mutesa I, sometimes spelled Mutesa, had become a figure of fascination. John Hanning Speke, in his diaries, recounted a spectacular meeting. Mutesa sat on a red carpet, draped in a finely crafted bark cloth robe, with jewelry of polished beads, brass, and copper rings gleaming on his wrists and ankles. Near him lay the revered symbols of royal authority: a spear, a shield, and a white hunting dog. Mutesa I's court excelled in metallurgy, shaping not only decorative items but also tools and weapons, a fact widely acknowledged in accounts by both Arab and European travelers. Despite popular Eurocentric accounts of African isolation, Buganda showcased a keen interest in external trade. According to Henry Morton Stanley's notes, Mutesa could mobilize an army of 125,000 men, supported by a fleet of 230 large boats, each potentially over 25 meters in length. The arrival of Swahili and Arab traders in 1844, followed by European explorers and missionaries in subsequent decades, introduced Buganda to new religious and diplomatic currents. Kabaka Mutesa I, 1856 to 1884, cleverly embraced outside influences to fortify Buganda's position. He welcomed Islamic teachings and integrated Swahili technicians, while adopting elements of Arabic diplomacy to negotiate with foreign powers like Anglo-Egyptian Sudan. However, this era also saw frequent warfare. Buganda's armies campaigned against Bunyoro and other neighbors, often with mixed success. Meanwhile, Christianity took root among court elites, adding to the vibrant yet fractious religious scene. By the 1880s, tension between different religious factions and the monarchy escalated, culminating in a series of power struggles and civil wars. When Mutesa I passed, the throne fell to Mwanga II, a young monarch staunchly loyal to Ganda spirituality. Published letters and missionary records, like those of the Anglican Bishop James Hannington, show how Mwanga viewed the rising tide of Christianity and Islam as a subtle invasion, threatening to undermine royal authority. In 1885, Mwanga ordered Hannington's execution and demanded his pages renounce Christianity. When some refused, they were burned. Some claim Mwanga's actions stemmed from purely a political reaction against European encroachment. Historians like J.J. Jurgensen in Uganda: A Modern History warn that these narratives were often shaped by Christian missionaries seeking support from London, thus blurring the lines between fact and propaganda. Over time, Mwanga's internal enemies, Muslim and Christian Buganda natives, aligned with British interests by rebelling against Buganda. By 1888, they deposed him in favor of his brothers Kiwiwa and Kalema. Mwanga, desperate to regain power, allied with the British, converted to Christianity, and ceded certain royal powers. Although he briefly retook his throne in 1889, by 1897, he found himself at odds with the colonial authorities once more. Defeated at the Battle of Budu, Mwanga was exiled to the Seychelles, where he died. His remains now rest with his forebears at the Kasubi tombs. The British, adopting the Swahili term Uganda for the lands north of Lake Victoria, steadily extended their control. Even under protectorate status, Uganda's institutions remained robust enough that the kingdom continued to wield considerable local influence. In 1962, as Uganda approached independence, Mutisa II, a descendant of Mutisa I, was ceremonially installed as the first president of the new nation. Tensions with central government authorities, however, ultimately led to the kingdom's temporary abolition in 1966. Yet in 1993, Buganda's monarchy was officially reinstated, marking the return of time-honored traditions to the modern state. Today, Mwenda Mutebi II, the 36th Kabaka, presides over a kingdom that, while fitting within the Republic of Uganda, still evokes deep loyalty among millions of Buganda. Published works, such as Samwiri Lwanga-Lunyigo's The British and the Buganda, highlight how cultural heritage, clan structures, and the monarchy's ceremonial role persist in everyday life. The kingdom's legacy thrives in language, dance, crafts, and the iconic bark cloth attire, once beloved by Mutisa I. When you stand on the hills overlooking Kampala, modern Uganda's bustling capital, it's not difficult to imagine the splendor of old Buganda. Vast banana plantations, canoe flotillas gliding over Lake Victoria's waters, and well-trodden paths leading to the Kabaka's palace. The kingdom's history brims with political intrigue, fierce battles, and a willingness to adapt. From the epics of Kinta and Camera to the politics of Mutisa I and Mwanga II, Buganda's tale is at once deeply rooted in local tradition and undeniably shaped by foreign interactions. Modern historians, along with UNESCO's committees, UNESCO's World Heritage documents, and ongoing local scholarship, affirm that this kingdom was far from an isolated backwater. Rather, it was a flourishing center of trade, culture, and innovation, one that continues to capture the world's imagination today.